The MK party of Jacob Zuma has just fired its deputy president, and that is former Judge Hlophe. Overnight, the man has just been suspended. Well, it's kind of like typical of the MK party. If there's one thing that we are used to when it comes to the MK party, it is the fact that people will be reshuffled at least every now and then. And that's because there are no permanent positions in the MK party. Well, except for the positions of Jacob Zuma and his daughter, that is Duduzile Zuma. If there are any positions that have been static, that have not been reshuffled or been moved around, those are the positions of Jacob Zuma as the president of the political party, the MK party, and his daughter, that is Duduzile Zuma. As for everybody else, they've been hired and fired many times since the political party started, at least in 2024. Well, today, Jacob Zuma, as usual, woke up and fired his deputy president. And this is some sort of a coincidence because the MK party recently got a second deputy president in the name of Tony Yengeni. Tony Yengeni recently moved from the ANC straight into the MK party. So he became the second deputy president of the MK party. This is something new. I can't think of any political party in South Africa. Of all the 600 political parties that we have in the country, well, that's a lot. But our country is very much unique. So we've got 600 political parties, and in all of them, none of them has got two deputy president. And the MK party recently made that kind of history. So the first deputy president, Judge Hlophe, has just been suspended. And the story thereof, it's kind of like very complicated. Well, here's the story. So Jacob Zuma had left the country and gone to Burkina Faso. So while Jacob Zuma is in Burkina Faso, we hear that Judge Hlophe, the first deputy president, made a decision to fire Colleen Makubele, who was the chief whip of the MK party in parliament. So all of a sudden, former Judge Hlophe makes this decision to fire the chief whip of the MK party. And we hear that when Jacob Zuma comes back from his trip in Burkina Faso, he says, no, you did wrong. You were not supposed to do this. Maybe you didn't consult me. You didn't follow the rules of the party. Therefore, there is the door. And I say this is kind of like peculiar because the MK party has just received a second deputy president. Now, because Hlophe has been suspended or fired, the MK party has defaulted to what is normal, which is to have one deputy president. And that deputy president currently is now Tony Yengeni. Now, this is very much suspicious. And if there's one thing that Jacob Zuma does, is that he plans. And I cannot put it past him that actually he did plan this firing or the suspension of Hlophe. It seems Hlophe had fallen out of favor with Jacob Zuma, just like many others that came before. You see, the MK party, since when it started, it tried to pull people that were kind of like famous or people that were the ANC had put aside or angered, which Jacob Zuma thought the people liked. So people like Judge Hlophe, who had just been fired from his position as a judge or a judge president of the South African court, Jacob Zuma thought, well, the people love this guy, so I have to put him into my party. It will bolster my party. And also, Julius Malema also tried to lure him, that is Hlophe, into the EFF. And Hlophe refused to join the EFF, but he ended up joining the MK party. And that was some sort of a boost for the MK party. The same way it was a boost when Jacob Zuma lured in, that is Floyd Shivambu, to leave the EFF and join the MK party. So those people were there for a purpose, and that purpose was to boost the MK party. However, it seems when your job is done in the MK party, you are then shown the door. We saw the same with Floyd Shivambu. So as for Judge Hlophe, it seems he had overstayed his welcome or his purpose in the MK party. So he was no longer that much useful. Also, having been replaced by Tony Yengeni. Well, Tony Yengeni was just put as a second deputy president, just waiting on the door for Judge Hlophe to step out. At least in retrospect, it looks exactly like that. But let's talk about Jacob Zuma's intelligence and his ability to maneuver around. You see, when Jacob Zuma wants you out of a position, he doesn't come directly and say, get out of the position. No, he goes around and does some intelligent work and do some planning and put some obstacles on the way. And then when you trip and fall, that's when you actually get to be shown the door. I want us to go back a little bit to Floyd Shivambu, how Floyd Shivambu came into the MK party and how exactly he was removed from his position. So Floyd Shivambu marches from the EFF to the MK party, and the country, everybody's like, yeah, it's going to boost the MK party. Floyd Shivambu is known, wada, and all that. And indeed, he goes into the party, he becomes the Secretary General of the party, and everything's looking great. And people are very much happy. There it goes. But Floyd Shivambu stays there for a little while, until when Jacob Zuma and, of course, his daughter feel that he doesn't have the salt anymore. That means that the bravado is gone. Whatever hula baloo that he had over him to join the MK party was finished. And then Jacob Zuma decided he has to go. And we had this, or it started with Jacob Zuma's daughter having a beef with Floyd Shivambu and calling him useless and the worst thing that ever happened to the MK party. And as we know, when the daughter of Jacob Zuma, that is Duduzile Zuma, starts to have beef with someone, that person has to go. That fight of Duduzile Zuma and Floyd Shivambu saw Floyd Shivambu eventually leaving. But how he came to leave is very much meticulous of Jacob Zuma, because Floyd Shivambu was kicked out for the reason that he went to Malawi and spoke to the controversial pastor, that is Shepherd Bushiri. However, what we heard was that, at least what we heard from Floyd Shivambu, is that the trip to Malawi and the meeting of Bushiri was actually sanctioned by Jacob Zuma. And that, remember, happened after Floyd Shivambu and the daughter of Jacob Zuma, that is Duduzile Zuma, have had their beef and their fighting in the open. So it was leading up to that. So Floyd Shivambu goes to Malawi, and then according to him, Jacob Zuma actually sanctioned that trip and said that he should go and do that. But when he comes back, what's funny is that he gets fired for it. So the question was, did Jacob Zuma set up Floyd Shivambu to do this? Did he set him up so that he can stumble, and when he falls, he can show him the door? It seemed exactly like that. Now, it seems like deja vu again, because here we are, another senior member of the MK party is being shown the door for something that he did, which is to fire or to set aside the position of Colleen Makhubele. I don't think that Hlophe made a decision all by himself to fire Colleen Makhubele. I do not think like that. Remember that Hlophe also had a beef or a problem with Duduzile Zuma over Colleen Makhubele. There was a time when Colleen Makhubele and Duduzile Zuma had a problem or had a fight. And Duduzile Zuma even walked out of the meetings that they were having. All of that went to the media, and it was all out in the open. And Hlophe got involved in favor of Colleen Makhubele. So Duduzile Zuma and Judge Hlophe, or former Judge Hlophe, were having serious problem because Hlophe took the side of Colleen Machiavelli. But here it is now, it seems it is Hlophe that's firing Machiavelli. But Jacob Zuma says, no, Hlophe did all this on his own, which I do not believe. It cannot happen that Hlophe, as the deputy president of the MK party, can all alone decide to fire the chief whip in parliament of the MK party without the buy-in of Jacob Zuma. This does not make sense. My theory is that Judge Hlophe did actually call Jacob Zuma when he was in Burkina Faso, and they had a discussion about this matter, and they had an agreement that Colleen Machiavelli has to be fired or has to be removed from her position. I think Jacob Zuma noted, or he gave a note to this thing. He actually did agree with Hlophe that he must be removed, or maybe he is the one that actually said that Colleen Machiavelli must be removed. I do not think that Hlophe made this decision alone, because every time when there was a problem, we hear that Hlophe spoke to Jacob Zuma. Even when they had the first problem with Duduzile Zuma and Colleen Machiavelli, we heard from Hlophe that he consulted Jacob Zuma and they spoke about the matter. And the matter was eventually settled inside the political party with Jacob Zuma. So did Hlophe make the decision all on his own? That doesn't sound like Hlophe. Definitely he did speak to Jacob Zuma. But classic Jacob Zuma might have all along wanted to take out Hlophe, because now he has served his duty of the bravado of the time when he came into the party. He had lost his salt and is no longer of benefit to the MK party, because now there's a new kid in the block from the ANC, which is John Yengeni, who is now the second deputy president. So the party cannot have two deputy presidents. One has to go. So it seems Jacob Zuma had this in his mind all along, and eventually Hlophe had to go. The same way Floyd Shivambu had to go. Hlophe is leaving the party exactly the same. Jacob Zuma went, cooked up a plan, and then when the plan was ripe, the man went and stumbled on the plan, and then he's fired for it. The same way Floyd Shivambu was fired for going to Malawi, Hlophe is fired for firing Colleen Machiavelli, which may have been an agreement between the two individuals, Hlophe and Jacob Zuma. However, the thing about the MK party, this thing of firing people every day, it seems it is the cause of the MK party losing the people. It's losing its integrity in the eyes of the people. It's losing its credibility, because you can't wake up every day and fire people. People need to have permanent positions so that the party or the members of the party can get used to those people. You see, politics are about familiarity. If you have a person who is not familiar or who people are not used to in a position, it becomes very difficult for people to associate as simple as they would with someone who is known. So the MK party needs to start thinking about how it is that they can make their party to be solid. They cannot keep removing people every single day. It cannot be that every day when we wake up, the MK party has reshuffled, have moved this one from here to there for very small reasons, or for reasons that just came up overnight. This is gonna cause the MK party to lose its credibility. And even though when the MK party started as a surprise to the people and became the biggest growing party in South Africa, getting 15% on its first elections, I think this whole reshuffling of people every day, the controversy of people coming in and going, especially known people like the Floyd Shivambu, the Hlophes, and all the others, this creates a problem for the MK party, and it might really cause the party to lose votes in the next elections. So far, if we were to run polls, I don't think there's so many people who are still eager to vote for the MK party, because maybe the people that they favored in the MK party have now left the party, as they do every day. So the MK party needs to look into this and ensure that they actually have people in positions that stay longer than 6 months or 4 months. At least let people stay for 5 years or something. It cannot be that people just stay for a few months and then they get removed, and then somebody else comes, stays for a few months, and then they leave. That is not good for the party. With the upcoming elections in 2026, the MK party will either be strengthened or weakened by its actions. So we're just going to have to wait and see. Well, this will be the end of this segment. And if you made it to this point, thank you very much. Please remember to like and subscribe.